my guiding spirit in conducting me to the demon allow me to rest so much desire? Or must I die and yet live? If I do, swear to me, Walton, that he shall not escape, that you will seek him and satisfy my vengeance in his death. And do I dare not to ask to understand my pilgrimage, to endure the hardships that I have undergone? No, I am not so selfish, yet when I am dead, if he should appear, if the mistress of vengeance should conduct him to you, swear that he shall not live. Swear that he shall not triumph my accustomed woes, and survive to the list of his dark crimes. Hear him not call on the manes of William, Justine, Clerval, Elizabeth, my father, and of the wretched Victor, and thrust your sword into his heart. I will hover near and direct the steel aright.
September 5th. We are still surrounded by mountains of ice, still in imminent danger of being crushed in the conflict. The cold is excessive, and many of my unfortunate comrades have already found a grave amidst this scene of desolation. Frankenstein has daily declined in health. A feverish fire still glimmers in his eye, but he is exhausted. This morning, as I sat watching the wan countenance of my friend, his eyes half closed and his limbs hanging listlessly, I was roused by half a dozen of the sailors who demanded admission into the cabin. They insisted, therefore, that I should engage with a solemn promise, that if the vessel should be freed, I would instantly direct my course southward. Frankenstein, who had at first been silent and, indeed, appeared hardly to have force enough to attend, now round himself his eyes sparkled and his cheeks flushed with momentary vigor. Turning towards the men, he said,
"What do you mean? What do you demand of your captain? Are you then so easily turned from your design? Did you not call it a glorious expedition? And wherefore was it glorious? Not because the way was smooth and placid as the southern sea, but because it's full of dangers and terror. Because at every new incident, your fortitude was to be called forth and your courage exhibited. Because danger and death surrounded it, and these you were brave to overcome. And for this it was glorious. For this was an honorable undertaking. Do not return to your families with the stigma of disgrace marked on your brows. Return as heroes who have fought and conquered and who know not what it is to turn their backs on the foe."
On September 9th, the ice began to move, and roarings like thunder were heard at a distance, as the island split and cracked in every direction. When the sailors saw this, and their return to their native country was apparently assured, a shout of tumultuous joy broke from them, loud and long continued.
I hear they shout, because they will soon return to England.
Alas, I cannot withstand their demands. I cannot lead them unwillingly to danger, and I must return.
Frankenstein endeavored to spring up, but the exertion was too great for him. He fell back and fainted. After a while, he opened his eyes. He breathed with difficulty and was unable to speak. The surgeon gave him a composing draught and ordered us to leave him undisturbed. I sat by his bed, watching him. His eyes were closed, and I thought he slept. But presently he called to me in a feeble voice, and bidding me come near, said,
"Alas, the strength I relied on is gone. I feel that I shall soon die, and he, my enemy and persecutor, may still be in being. Think not, Walton, that in the last moments of my existence, I feel the burning hatred and ardent desire of revenge I once expressed, but I feel myself justified in desiring the death of my adversary. In a fit of enthusiastic madness, I created a rational creature and is bound towards him to assure as far as way in my power his happiness and well-being. My duties towards the being of my own species have greater claims to my attention because they included a greater proportion of happiness or misery. Urged by this view, I refused, and I did right in refusing to create a companion for the first creature. I showed unparalleled malignity and selfishness and evil. He destroyed my friends. He devoted to destruction beings who possess exquisite sensations, happiness, and wisdom. Nor do I know where his thirst for vengeance may end. Miserable himself, that he may render no wretch ought to die. The task of destruction was mine, but I have failed when actuated by selfishness and vicious motives. I ask you to undertake my unfinished work, and I renew this request now, when I am only included in reason and virtue. Now that you are returning to England, you have little chance of meeting with him. I dare not ask you to do what I think right, for I may be misled by passion. This hour, when I momentarily expect my release, is the one happy one which I have enjoyed for several years. The forms of the beloved dead float before me, and I hasten into their arms. Farewell, Walton.
His voice became fainter as he spoke, and at length, exhausted by his effort, he sunk into silence. My tears flow, my mind is overshadowed by a cloud of disappointment, but I journey towards England, and I may there find consolation. Suddenly, I am interrupted. What do these sounds portend? It is midnight, the breeze blows fairly, and the watch on deck scarcely stir. Again, there is a sound as of a human voice, but hoarser. I entered the cabin, where lay the remains of my ill-fated and admirable friend. Over him hung a form which I cannot find words to describe, gigantic in stature, yet uncouth and distorted in its proportions. When he heard the sound of my approach, he sprung towards the window. Never did I behold a vision so horrible as his face, of such loathsome yet appalling hideousness. I shut my eyes involuntarily and endeavored to recollect what were my duties with regard to this destroyer. I called on him to stay. He paused, looking on me with wonder, and again turning towards the lifeless form of his creator. He seemed to forget my presence, and every feature and gesture seemed instigated by the wildest range of some uncontrollable passion.
That is also my victim. In his murder, my crimes are consummated. The miserable series of my being is wound to its close. O Frankenstein, generous and self-devoted being, what does it avail that I now ask thee to pardon me? I, who irretrievably destroyed thee by destroying all thou lovest. Alas, he is cold. He cannot answer me.
At length, I gathered resolution to address him in a pause of the tempest of his passion.
Your repentance is now superfluous. If you had listened to the voice of conscience and heeded the stings of remorse before you had urged your diabolical vengeance to this extremity, Frankenstein would yet have lived.
Do you think that I was then dead to agony and remorse? He suffered not in the consummation of the deed. Oh, then the 10,000th portion of the anguish that was mine during the lingering detail of its execution. A frightful selfishness hurried me on, while my heart was poisoned with remorse. Think you that the groans of Clerval were music to my ears? My heart was fashioned to be susceptible of love and sympathy, and when wretched my misery to vice and hatred, it did not endure the violence of the change, without torture such as you cannot even imagine.
Hypocritical fiend, if he whom you mourn still lived, still would he be the object, again would he become the prey of your accursed vengeance.
Yet I seek not a fellow feeling in my misery, no sympathy may I ever find. When I first sought it, it was the love of the virtue, the feelings of happiness and affection, with which my whole being overflowed, that I wished to be participated. But now, that virtue has become to me a shadow, and that happiness and affection are turned into a bitter and loathing despair. And what should I seek for sympathy? I am content to suffer alone, while my suffering shall endure. When I die, I am well satisfied that abhorrence and opprobrium should load my memory. Once I falsely hoped to meet with beings, who, pardon my outward form, would love me for the excellent qualities which I was capable of unfolding. I was nourished with high thoughts of honor and devotion. But now, crime has degraded me beneath the meanest animal. No guilt, no mischief, no malignity, no misery can be found against comparable to mine. I, the miserable and the abandoned, am an abortion, to be spurned at, and kicked, and trampled on. Even now my own blood boils in the recollection of injustice. But it is true that I am a wretch. I have murdered the lovely and the helpless. I have strangled the innocent as they slept, and gasped to death his throat who never injured me or any other living thing. I have devoted my creator, the select specimen of all that is worthy of love and admiration among men, to misery. I have pursued him, even to that of irremediable ruin. He lies white and cold in death. Do not think that I shall be slow to perform this sacrifice. I shall quit your vessel on the ice raft which brought me thither, and shall seek the most northern extremity of the globe. I shall no longer see the sun or stars, or feel the winds play on my cheeks. Light, feeling, and sense will pass away. In this condition must I find my happiness. Some years ago, when the images which this world affords first opened upon me, when I felt the cheering warmth of summer, and heard the rustling of the leaves, and the warbling of the birds, and these were all to me, I should have wept to die. Now it is my only consolation, polluted by crimes, and torn by the bitterest remorse. Where can I find rest but in death? Soon, these burning miseries will be extinct. I shall ascend my funeral pile triumphantly, and exult in the agony of the torturing flames. The light of the conflagration will fade away. My ashes will be swept into the sea by the winds. My spirit will sleep in peace, or if it thinks, it will not surely think thus. Farewell.
He sprung from the cabin window as he said this, upon the ice raft which lay close to the vessel. He was soon borne away by the waves and lost in darkness and distance. The end.